going to have like cosplay players, we're going to have like experience zone, battle zones. So we just want to get Web3 games in the hands of the people and get them earning their first tokens, just onboarding them, because it's a huge amount of gamers in mainly like mobile game, casual gaming. Like 79% of adults play games regularly. And the next bull market is going to be driven by gaming. There's a lot of been an investment into Web3 games now in their studios. But I'm really hoping that one of the AAA Web3 games comes out of Turkey, because there's a lot of great gaming studios in Turkey.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Next Billion podcast. And today we're talking to the builders who are building the stuff which is going to onboard the next billion people. And today I am delighted to have Erhan with us. Erhan, nice to meet you and see you in person, and it's great to be here. So yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, it's a pleasure. So I think we can get into maybe a little bit about yourself and what you do, but for those outside there, we're talking about Turkey and how it's one of the most awesome places for crypto and blockchain at the moment. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So please enlighten us. Yeah, what got you into crypto? How did you come here today?
Yeah, so I've been in crypto for about 6 years now. I used to work in advertising in London before my pre-crypto days, and I started up my own PR marketing events agency in late 2017. And I ended up having a client who was like a venture capitalist, and he really wanted to boost his brand. You know, we did a really good job with him. Long story short, he flew me to San Francisco, introduced me to his whole network. I, fell down the rabbit hole very quickly, like people do. Picked up lots of clients, learned more about Bitcoin, decentralization.
When was this? What era are we talking?
This is 2017.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, previous bull.
Yeah, and obviously, that was a crazy time, so the energy kind of took me away with it. But, I also learned about self-sovereignty of money and all of that, and that kind of really hit me in the right places, and I thought this is something I really want to get into and learn more about. And obviously there was a huge communication problem back in those days with like ICOs and everything's a scam. Yep. Luckily, things have kind of moved on from there.
I think we're doing better these days.
We are doing better these days, yeah. Thank God for that.
Yeah, or maybe it takes other forms. Maybe the NFT hype is kind of similar to that. But
yeah. Well, the NFT is probably just coming out of the ICO phase, right? It's like 4 years behind what the actual crypto market's in.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then anyway, so, thanks to him. He, to be honest, when I first started working with him, I was just like, tell me what to buy. Like, I can't look into this. But when he flew me out to the conference, I really started, onboarding and learning. And so, that's how I got into the space. And like I said, my agency's been doing pretty well. We've been doing a lot of PR marketing. The last 2 years or so, we've moved into event side. As our agency, we used to partner with events and help them out with their marketing, PR, their sponsors, their speakers. But then in 2019, we took a real interest in the Turkish market, and that's how Istanbul Blockchain Week was formed.
Amazing. Well, tell us about Istanbul Blockchain Week. Yeah. And maybe also just the context as well. I know a little bit of some of what's going on there, but just for everyone out there, what is the situation right now in Turkey? People hear on TV, yes, the currency is not doing too well, right?
No.
But there is a lot of interest in crypto there, and we can certainly attest to that at Step. Like, it's our number 2 market, essentially, on our analytics. And that was before we even had Turkish translations on the website. So what's going on?
And you know what? I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
And it makes me smile, because it's like, yes, the Turkish community is there, and it's present. And a lot of founders, it takes them by surprise. And I'm telling you, don't ignore the Turkish community.
Yeah, you can be like, hey, look, I told you so.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I hear it wherever I am, in Singapore or Asia, any event I'm in. So look, in Turkey's been struggling with inflation for a very long time, like much longer than, I think Europe is, crying their pants about a 10%, inflation.
Yeah.
Like in Turkey, it's close to 100%, and some people would say it's even more than that. That is obviously insane, and the economy has been struggling for a few years now. Obviously people want to diversify into assets to ensure that their money is still valuable. And in Turkey, the thing is, obviously the Turkish lira isn't exactly used like around the world, so they're always used to swapping money in and out from dollars, pounds, euros, and also, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the gaming side of things, and Turkey's always been a huge gaming market, especially for like Web 2, mobile, casual users. So people, again, used to spending their money on points, gems, hoops, whatever it is you're buying. So they're used to kind of swapping in and out of currencies. And
it's a place of traders. That's one thing, certainly with Istanbul, is like thousands of years, there's been people gathering in a bazaar to just trade and do stuff, and commerce. There's always been a large factor of it.
Yeah, I assume you've walked past the Grand Bazaar in the last couple of years, because if you have, you'll see all those OTC desks where they're trading Bitcoin, Ethereum,
Oh yeah,
XRP.
Look, some of our team, we went for a walk one day and we're like, how many shops can we count? I think we came up with 8 within the spans of like 2 hours or something like that.
Exactly. It's pretty incredible. I haven't seen anything like that anywhere in the world.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like we both travel quite a lot, right?
Yeah,
so that's a big statement to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So Turkey's always been known for trading. So I've had many conversations with like FTX, Binance. They've told me similar, like, oh, it's in the top 3 for trading.
Yeah.
There's lots of resources out there that people can find that information out. There was a report that came out from ING Bank, the Dutch bank, in 2019 that said 20% of people in Turkey have owned or used cryptocurrencies. Now, Turkey is a country of about 86 million, so that's...
Sorry, that was 2019?
That was in 2019, so imagine what it's like now.
Oh, right, yeah, probably a lot bigger.
Definitely a lot bigger. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I would say so.
And that really started getting the international eyes on Turkey when that report came out. People were like, we should be starting to focus on this. But the great thing now is that I don't really want Turkey just to be known for traders, because it's kind of a very one-dimensional kind of thing. But now Turkey is getting a lot of interest from builders like Step Finance and like Solana. And unfortunately, due to the war in Ukraine, lots of developers have moved into Turkey, and Istanbul especially, from Ukraine and from Russia. So it's artificially inflated this whole developer scene in Turkey. And now we're seeing these different L1s come in and do the hackathons and do workshops and onboard the next generation, which I think is fantastic. And that's
this
what we
must
want
be a
to do.
good thing though, right?
It's good for Turkey.
Yeah.
And it's great as well, because in Turkey, a lot of the time, they just get the same voices, like the same professors, the same teachers in Turkish, and now they're getting a lot of different voices. And I'd also say that the opportunity for young people in Turkey is pretty dire in terms of like career growth, progression. It's very difficult for them to get visas in other countries, and Web3 is an amazing opportunity for them to earn well over the average salary in Turkey.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, as we know, it's the next frontier of finance, and so like there's huge blockchain clubs around Turkey, around Istanbul and Turkey as a whole. There's about 20 in Istanbul as it is.
20.
Yeah,
amazing.
And there's more outside of that. And so for Istanbul Blockchain Week, for example, we're bussing them in from all over Turkey.
Is it mainly developers, or is there opportunities for other people with other skill sets?
There's a lot of developers, but there's definitely opportunity for other skill sets as well. As EAK, which is the agency that I run, we're actually putting a program in place that will allow us to onboard very talented students from those blockchain clubs and get them into Web3. Now, we're not a development house, right? So marketing, client services, copywriting, strategy, they can all come in and get into Web3 through EAK, but it's not just a closed shop, obviously. We want to start running career fairs and things like that to help onboard the next generation of Turkish talent. And I think the level of enthusiasm is something that I haven't seen in a long time, and you've probably seen it yourself, right, with DevCon. Like, everyone is saying DevCon Istanbul. Like, it's so far apart from, I think the second one was like Vietnam, and it was like miles in front of it. So that just shows you.
Exactly, it makes sense for so many reasons, right? Like, not only is it just easy to get to, that there's a lot of connecting flights, visas very easy and that sort of thing, but yeah, like, it's a mega city as well. I don't think people appreciate, like, what's the population, 15 million at least?
Something like that.
Istanbul, something like that. And early this year, I was in Singapore, and Singapore is a good example of, this is a city in Asia that's an international business hub. And everywhere around Asia, you generally don't want to host your international business or your conference in, let's say, Indonesia or Vietnam or Thailand. Great places, but not really international business hubs. So a lot of people, even from those countries, a lot of businesses, the first thing they think of is, oh, of course, I'm going to host my conference or do my thing in Singapore, because that's where that's where everybody goes for the international business. In Europe, I think Europe doesn't really have one of those like main central cities just yet. But I would argue, and maybe you would as well, that city should be Istanbul, because this is a mega city, and it's close to everywhere in Europe as well as the Middle East as well.
Yeah.
And it's sort of east and west and all that sort of stuff, but it has everything. Right, and it's not like a small little sort of European city that's cobblestone streets, and well, that does exist there, but it's actually reaching to try and target a lot of these international business kind of stuff, and it's a place where people want to go.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, with the wealth of various different institutions and banks that have reached out to us for tickets for Istanbul Blockchain Week, range from like the Bank of Jordan, the Bank of Nigeria, people in the Middle East, Iran.
Nice.
And then also like people, NASDAQ are coming, and Coinbase, and United Nations are partnering with us, and so it's really diverse, which Istanbul is all about, being diverse and open, and it's been great to see, and I really think that Turkey in the next few years is going to be, the hub for that region.
100%. Well, tell us more about Istanbul Blockchain Week. What was the impetus to really start it and get it going? And have you seen it evolve over time, or we're next week, right?
Next week, yeah.
Very exciting, very exciting. Everyone go check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be online. We'll put the website links at the bottom as well. But yeah, tell us about it. Like, what was the genesis and where we at, do you think, and where things have got to?
Yeah, so in 2019 was when I had the idea to do it, and that was when all of the reports were coming out about, the crazy levels of adoption. And I spent a lot of time in Turkey. Like we just discussed, I saw those OTC desks and everything. And naturally, as a marketer, entrepreneur, I looked at the event space and was like, right, I want to go to the best event in Turkey. What is it? I looked at those events, and I was very disappointed about what I found. It was lots of shillers, lots of bad actors. And
it was a lot of that going on like the last few years as well. But
yeah,
that's definitely not the vibe that you want.
You can't have that like levels of adoption and excitement and enthusiasm, and then they're really excited to go to a crypto event, and then the first experience they have is that they get scammed or they lose all their money. That's just going to lose them forever, right?
Yeah. I know people. I spoke to people at these conferences that they didn't know anything about crypto. They were going there to learn, and they get there, and it's like some guy who's clearly running some sort of scammy thing, and that's not a good vibe.
Yeah, so you either get that or everyone on the lineup is sponsored.
Yeah,
so it's
right.
like an advert.
Yeah. Hi, I'm from X, and I'm here because I paid some money.
Yeah,
Great.
and usually it's just a white label exchange or something. It's not innovative. So, from my agency, we worked with a lot of some of the biggest names in the space and some of the biggest L1s and builders and DeFi and all sorts. So I had a really big network anyway, and I was just like, right, well, I think I need to do something about this. I think we all should contribute to the Web3 adoption. And so when I saw the opportunity to actually make a difference, like if there was a great conference there already, I'd have been like, great, let's just contribute. But there wasn't. And so in 2019, we were planning this. And actually, it's a quite bad story because it was going to be in April 2020. I did all the planning, like everything. I had some great speakers, huge names, like CZ was coming and a few other big names, and that was really exciting. And then 3 weeks before, I had to cancel it.
Yeah,
and
3
that
weeks.
Sucked. Yeah,
yeah, that sucks.
All the you can imagine all the money and time and resource that goes into that.
Stuff, yeah.
And so this blockchain week's been planned for 3 years. You could say it's like
okay.
the most planned event that's ever happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then progressing into obviously 2021, COVID was still a bit iffy. Now finally in 2022 we can get this show on the road, and it's been a long time coming. Obviously we missed the bull market, but there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Istanbul Blockchain Week, my aim is to make this the best blockchain week globally over the time. Obviously it's the first year now, but we'll build. And so how do we do that? We bring in passionate builders, educators. We provide job opportunities for people. I have three main goals with Istanbul Blockchain Week. One, as I've mentioned, is to get on board people into the industry via jobs. Second is education, right? Because we want, for example, like EAK Istanbul is doing a workshop. We've got hackathons going on, which is co-hosted with the United Nations. So we're partnering them to work on Web3 solutions using for humanitarian needs, which I'm really quite proud of.
Nice. Yep.
And then, of course, the final one is investment, right? So from outside of Turkey, so bringing in like top Asian funds, European funds, American funds, etc., and helping that ecosystem grow and supporting them. And so to make sure that those things happen, we have like an investment pitch competition with some like tier one, like outside funds that are going to be running the rule over some really exciting Turkish projects. As I mentioned, we have a 3-day hackathon, so we're partnering with all the different blockchain clubs, bringing all their students in, and not just students, obviously, like developers that are not students, all into Hilton Bomonti where it's happening. And then we have Istanbul, which is like a DAO global gathering of DAOs, trying to work out from the biggest issues that are currently facing DAOs right now, like DAO governance, DAO tooling, DAO infrastructure. And then we have half a day DAOCon on the main stage where they can actually talk and because DAOs in Turkey is still very, they're new anyway, but in Turkey even more so. And people are trying to wonder, what is a DAO? Like, how do I create a DAO?
I think so, and it comes back to the education point as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often said that there's so much content in the English language world that's out there, and a lot of these conferences, a lot of these new L1s or DeFi protocols and that sort of thing, they're not thinking, outside of that kind of box, right?
Yeah.
They're all sort of very English language. So what you get is there's massive opportunities, emerging markets all over the world, tons of users, lots of people that want to learn, but there's just no content that is easily able to be consumed, right? So is that a problem that you guys have noted, and how do you look to try and solve that?
Well, I think that's definitely, you mentioned what's changed from 2019 to now. Like, that's definitely changed.
Yeah.
And it's great to see, like, even from a media standpoint, CoinDesk Turkey exists now, Cointelegraph Turkey exists now.
Step Finance Turkey, everything's in Turkish now. So.
Well, there you go. So, no, we've seen a lot. That's changed a lot. And, it's very important because, like, statistically, like, 80% of, Turks don't speak Turkish. Sorry, don't speak English, obviously. Yeah. So, that's, a lot of people think they can just, we'll just target Turkey with an English website. Yeah. The first thing we say is, like, you need to get everything translated, like your game and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the developers as well being a key point, right? And providing that opportunity for Web3 jobs, and maybe just a bit of context as well. Like, what is the differential looking like between, like, what's the opportunity that you could get working in a local IT company in Turkey versus, what could you sort of get in a Web3 job? Are we talking like, a big difference in potential salary or interesting things? Or like, why should people be excited about Web3?
It's a huge difference, but I don't think starting on salary is like, but obviously Web3, you're building the future, and especially, Turkish people, they can collaborate with international talent, they can actually be involved in the ecosystem. Like, as I mentioned to you just before we started shooting, a lot of Turkish students or developers are now being flown out by good actors in the space to go to ETH Bogota, ETHCC, and they finally feel like part of the whole community as opposed to just working in a silo. Of course, the salary is multiple X's different, and so that's obviously important to people. Yeah. But I think the opportunity to be part of a global gathering and for Turkey to have a real say and like to be one of the top hubs, I think is a unique opportunity for them. Even the government like sponsored a blockchain hackathon the other day. Like, nice. And that is pretty incredible. Yeah. I mean, everything points to there being a huge level of adoption. And one point I didn't raise, about Istanbul Blockchain Week is the gaming event we have. Yep. So that's called W3E Gaming, and it's an esports championship and Web3 expo. And so we're going to have like cosplay players, we're going to have like experience zone, battle zones. But basically, we just want to it's free to attend for anyone. So we just want to get Web3 games in the hands of the people and just get them earning their first tokens, just onboarding them, because there's a huge amount of gamers in Turkey, mainly like mobile game, casual gaming. I mean, there's a statistic on a mobile report that said like 79% of adults play games regularly. Like, never mind children.
I can believe it, yeah. Here at the Lisbon event, the gaming day, I think, was yesterday or the day before. Yeah. I can't remember, it's all a blur. But the gaming event was massively oversubscribed. Yeah. I tried to get in, they didn't let me. I didn't have my ticket, unfortunately. But we went there, and some of our team members got in, and they were saying it was bigger than the Hacker House, even though like there was like way more teams and demoing and stuff. It's very important, right? And this seems like a growth area for crypto.
I mean, in my opinion, the next bull market is going to be driven by gaming. Yeah. Okay, Web3 games at the moment are not quite there when it comes to like the quality, and especially, but at the end of the day, I think in a few years' time that's going to change. I mean, there's some solid, there's a lot of investment into Web3 games now and their studios. But I'm really hoping that one of the AAA, Web3 games comes out of Turkey, because there's a lot of great gaming studios in Turkey. And as the founder of Istanbul Blockchain Week, I feel like it's our, purpose to highlight those people and highlight those studios and give them a chance to be seen and heard and invested in, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we have a dedicated day to W3E gaming, and that's in like an esports arena in Turkey. So it's really nice, and really excited to see what happens there.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned investment as well, and I think, what's it looking like for sort of indigenous platforms in Turkey? Is it harder to raise money overseas, or has that been historically how it is, or is it just such a booming market that it's quite easy? Or like, because I think a lot of markets, and I've seen that in some of the places I've traveled, people sort of don't know how to attract the right investment as well, right? Like you want to have a vibrant ecosystem of people building stuff. Firstly, that's necessary. And then number two, the investors will probably come. Is that sort of what you're seeing sort of catalyze in Turkey right now? Is like, if you get a lot more builders there, a lot more people building stuff, it's going to bring the international funds, it's going to bring the opportunities for people to raise money. And it seems like that's what you guys are trying to do at Blockchain Week, right?
So it's not there yet, but that's exactly what we're trying to move the needle on. Because yes, Turkish VCs, that are getting into Turkish projects and stuff, and that's cool. But I want to see, I mean, obviously there's instances of like the big tier ones funds getting in, but like I do think it needs more attention than it's currently getting. And, I think Istanbul Blockchain Week over the course of the next few years can definitely play a central part in that. And that's, like I said, one of our goals. So it's exciting to say the least.
Absolutely. Well, so what do you see the future of crypto in general in Turkey over the next, say, year? Because it's hard to pick 5 years out, people often say, hey, where's crypto going to be in 5 years? I have no idea. We could be in flying cars in 5 years. So like, let's just focus on something that's a bit more doable. But it seems like getting Istanbul Blockchain Week off the ground finally after all of the COVID stuff the last few years, that's the priority. But yeah, sort of where do you see things going? What would you like to see in where things go?
Yeah, I mean, there's a wealth of different options that could happen. I mean, there's one thing, like payments in crypto are banned in Turkey. So payments is not, I don't think, going to do much right now.
Do you think that'll change anytime soon, or?
So the regulation is a quite a key point, right? And for regulation, I think that government's been quiet about it for a long time. People have been waiting. But like I said, the government's doing the hackathon. The hackathon themselves, and they've definitely, there's been YouTube videos of like CZ and like the finance minister and stuff. So they're definitely like open to it. So I think they're aware that they don't want to come out with anything draconian that prevents innovation. I think they're aware of what the opportunities. But a lot of companies are still waiting for that regulation to come in. And when that comes in, again, it'll be a big boom of hopefully investment and new projects coming out. And also current projects that are in Turkey that are maybe a little bit hesitant about being too public in case the regulation turns around and hits them in the face. So in the next year, that's definitely something that I'd love to see, is like a progressive, innovative, that allows people to happily build and grow without being, worried about regulation. So that's definitely something that I'd love to see over the next year. Yeah.
What do you think that looks like? Like, is there impediments to starting an exchange, or just broad strokes? Like, what do you think would be necessary, I guess?
I mean, I'm not like a legal expert or anything like that. Like there has been some instances where you might have heard about it. Like there's a couple of Turkish exchanges there's one specifically that like ran off with all the money, and that was a big embarrassment for the government and for Turkey in general. And so that meant that the Turkey have had to introduce laws to exchanges for a little bit more knowledge of who's using the exchange and how much are they taking in and out, which, to be fair, I think is fair enough, especially when things like that's going on.
And these are not sort of intractable problems. Like, these are problems which many
global
other
problems.
Global
problems. This is not just
jurisdictions.
Turkey.
This has happened many times before, unfortunately.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think something like that should certainly help the environment, because look, it's booming right now. I can attest to that, and certainly with all the work that you're doing, it seems like everything is pointing to that, right?
Yeah, and there's loads of community meetups all the time as well, and that's something that we should definitely touch on. Like, there's some amazing groups in Turkey that are doing really good things week in, week out. I mean, Istanbul Blockchain Week's once a year, but there's great communities like Altcoin Turk community have been amazing. Istanbul Blockchain Women, a great community, regularly putting on events around Turkey, and there's tens and tens of others, and those organizations, and many that I didn't mention, like, should get a lot of the spotlight as well, and so we're partnering with a lot of them for Istanbul Blockchain Week, making sure that they're highlighted, have a presence, they're on stage, and like we're all in it kind of together kind of thing. And like I said, those guys have been doing it for years and years now. So I think it's important as well to support them and help them, grow and get the recognition they deserve.
Cool. So actually, we recognized the awesomeness of Turkey as well, and this is something that I've also been talking to Solana about.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been talking to people here in Lisbon about as well. Is look, it's literally like the second most important market in terms of daily active users for many of these DeFi apps or NFTs or whatever it might be is Turkey. That's the case for us. It's been like that ever since we started, really. So it really dawned on us that this should be a place that we're focusing on. So we're actually putting together a conference as well at the start of April, so 31 March to 2nd of April, called Solana Crossroads. And again, we want to bring all of the awesome builders in the Solana ecosystem to Istanbul and just expose people to, like, this is such an amazing opportunity here. We've got the local ecosystem.
Yeah.
We've got people on board from FTX Turkey as well. Love to have yourself involved as well. We spoke about that. 100% we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have you in flashing lights, up somewhere or something, maybe. But no, look, I think for these L1 ecosystems like Solana as well, are you seeing that it doesn't really matter which sort of L1 ecosystem, as long as more people are getting to understand the opportunities in the Turkish market? Like, that's the main thing, right? So.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I'm quite broad strokes, right?
Yeah.
So I like Solana, but I'm not like a Solana maxi or anything. So as long as the L1s that come in are genuine and they're builders and they are investing in educating people, I'm all for it. So it was great to hear that, you guys are doing exactly that, with Crossroads. And I'd actually love to hear more about the things that you have planned there and how Istanbul Blockchain Week can support what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we're thinking that we need to support the local community as well. So we want it to be something meaningful for local Turks. So I think, native language speaking dev tracks is certainly something that we're going for. Looking to work with Solana on that and maybe a couple of other partners to see if we can bring in, top tier speakers or local speakers or wherever it might be and see what we can do there. And then I think as well, we want to bring the rest of the other sort of international ecosystem as well there. So we want people to be exposed to that. So a lot of the DeFi apps and that sort of thing that we've been speaking to. So we'll have, panels and talks and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we also want to maybe tie it into a hacker house as well. I think the hacker house concept is something that Solana's done a really good job with.
They have.
Yeah. Were you at the hacker house?
It's industry leading.
Yeah.
Like other L1s are talking about, we want a Solana hacker house.
Everyone should do it.
Yeah, they should. And yeah, I went to the hacker house here. I went to the one in Korea. Like I know Ellie quite well. Like I'm very impressed by it. Yeah.
It's impressive, right? And I think the whole point of it is it's a free venue for devs to just go and build stuff, talk to other devs, teams to do stuff, maybe prizes for different sponsors and that sort of thing. I think that whole concept is super important because, and that's why I think Solana's doing quite well in all of these different, like it hosts a hackathon every 3 months or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think the last hackathon, the Riptide hackathon, it had some crazy number of, literally 4 digits of people in probably close to the 8,000-9,000 people signing up or whatever. It was like 500 different projects that submitted, applications of varying sort of levels of whatever it is. But that's awesome. Like even if 10% of those, become real things and succeed,
it'd be huge.
It's huge, right? So huge. I think it's all about like just getting more builders involved.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do is we want to like help catalyze that and bring some of what Solana's been doing there. And I believe Solana themselves have a hacker house in February.
They do.
In Istanbul as well.
Yeah.
So look, I think it's basically for the next 6 months or so that's like the place to be in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounds like a lot of our ethos and values from Istanbul Blockchain Week to Crossroads are very aligned. And so that's why I'm just delighted because like I said, in 2019, this was not the case at all.
Yeah.
And seeing builders like Step come in and Step in, sorry, is great. It's great to see. So yeah, I 100% will support you guys in what you're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Yeah, no, I think for us, it's super important for us to be there. We want to make it like one of our key focus. I spend a lot of time in Istanbul as well.
Yeah.
So we should hang out more as well, I think.
Definitely.
But I'm super excited. I want it to be that hub like Singapore is. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's what success looks like to me. And as you said, like 2019, it wasn't on people's radar for some reason. And now it's dawning on people, which is super cool to see. Because this is a mega city which is emergent, it's growing, it's booming, there's so much happening. It's not like a sleepy little village that we might see more often here in Europe. It is super exciting to see. So definitely, if you have the time, come on down to Istanbul Blockchain Week. Actually, we'll make a list. Come on down to the February for the Solana Hackathon in Istanbul. Then, next week.
I was going to say.
Sorry, next week, Istanbul Blockchain Week.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Then February for the Solana Hacker House.
Yeah.
And then for us at the start of April for Crossroads.
Yeah.
Very excited. And look, I've been telling people here as well that just get on a plane and go to Istanbul as soon as possible.
See it for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, as soon as you step off the plane, as we just discussed, there's like crypto blockchain logos absolutely everywhere. The airport's full of them. The taxis are, the trams are completely wrapped in different branding and everything. You literally cannot miss it.
And there's OTC shops everywhere, which I think is super cool. In fact, I found a Solana OTC shop as well. And in fact, most OTC shops, they do like 180 different currencies or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty mad.
Pretty much do anything. You just walk in there and you're like, can I sell X coin? And they're like, yeah, sure. All right.
Yeah.
Here's the price. Off you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing. So where can people find out more? Where should they go?
Yeah.
Twitter, websites, yourself. Where should people look?
Yeah, so if you'd like to learn more about Istanbul Blockchain Week, you can go to istanbulblockchainweek.com. And if you'd like to, collaborate in some way, feel free to DM us on Twitter, or you can find me on Twitter, which is @_Erhan K_. And yeah, we hope you guys can make it out. Whether it's not this year, maybe it's next year. Like we'll be doing this every single year until until blockchain is adopted.
Do we take over the world somehow?
Yeah. And so yeah, like, and also not even just blockchain week. You know, we want to support other partners or other builders that are getting into Turkish market as EAK or as Istanbul Blockchain Week. So you know what you guys are doing. So yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. We'll put the links in the description, in the podcast, wherever it is. But definitely go and check out Erhan, doing excellent work.
Thanks.
And come on down to Istanbul Blockchain Week next week. It's going to be amazing. Or at least, yeah, check out the videos online. There's probably going to be YouTube stuff as well.
We're live streaming it on CoinMarketCap. We're live streaming it on Theta TV. We're live streaming it on CryptoSlate. So yeah, you can catch it online if you can't make it.
Amazing, amazing, awesome stuff. Thank you so much for being here today and joining me, and all the best for the next couple of weeks of crazy action.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Been a pleasure.
All right.